It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
And we've been joined by Douglas Coleman.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi there, Douglas. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
Thank you for coming on the show.
It's a beautiful day in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, is that where you
You're
are?
welcome. I'm glad to be here. Yes.
Okay.
I'm in a podcast studio at the business school of the College of Charleston looking out on the street. I teach a class here, so it was kind of nice for them to let me do this for this satellite media tour.
Okay. Well, we're happy to have you here. I'm looking over your bio, and it says that you served as director of editorial projects for National Geographic Travel. So served being past tense?
Traveler, yes. Yes, Traveler magazine is no longer extant in the United States. When Disney bought the company, Traveler magazine went away. So, and then I started writing books, which has just been fantastic. The National Geographic book staff is amazing.
How many books do you have published with them?
This is my first book, so I'm super excited. I've been working with them since 2001, the day after 9/11, when then editor-in-chief of Traveler, Keith Bellows, called me to ask me if I would get on an Amtrak train for 4 weeks to see what was going on in the country. And I said, yeah.
Okay, let me ask you about that. So right after 9/11, you got on an Amtrak train and just toured the country to do what? To take the pulse of what people felt like?
Take the pulse. It's often in magazines that they like to move fast on a trend, so I was literally in downtown Manhattan. They weren't letting anybody above 14th Street. I had flown in the night before 9/11 to visit friends and was staying in a loft in Soho when the planes flew into the towers. But what happened was that Keith called me up and said, how would you like to go on an Amtrak train? And if you remember, immediately after 9/11, there was talk about, everything was just shut down. And I said, that sounds like a great assignment. Went on the trip, duly wrote up and typed up my notes, discovered that Amtrak is a great hidden resource, that is a wonderful way to travel. It's either it's either slow or just right. It just depends. It's slow travel personified. And by the time I got done, the planes were flying again, so Keith spiked the story, but that began my relationship. So for 20 years, I've been writing for National Geographic Traveler, which is now the website.
What was it about Amtrak that you liked? Because I've had people with very mixed opinions about Amtrak comparing it to the trains in Europe or the trains in Japan, saying that just we're way behind.
Oh, we certainly are way behind. As a matter of fact, it can remind you of some of the, the third class trains in some parts of Eastern Europe or Asia. It's because we don't value trains. We used to have the best train system in the world. And because we all decided we'd rather be driving trucks, SUVs, and cars, the trains were allowed to languish. And unfortunately, we're in that situation. However, there are times when Amtrak is really great. And it takes you through places that you never see before. The Zephyr goes across the Smoky Mountains. They have great viewing cars. So I always say, take Amtrak if you like slow travel. So you bring a good book, you curl up, you watch the countryside go by. It's good for people who like to see the hidden parts of America, because you literally are going through America's back alley and backyard. We all know that we're supposed to put nice windows and curtains and shades on the front windows, but the back windows you sort of let languish. So it's kind of nice to look inside those.
Okay, I'm looking over your bio, and there's a couple of talking points here that I want to hit. One of them I don't quite understand. Sure. You might have to give me an explanation. It says a lot of these destinations are like dupes on TikTok. Okay, I have no idea what that is. Can you explain what that is?
Oh, yeah, I will explain, and I can bet you don't know who Mr. Beast is, do you?
Mr. Beast. No, I do know
Never
him.
heard of Mr.
On
Beast.
YouTube, yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, I know him.
All right. Well, yeah. So I was about to say. So my students are always telling me things I don't know. So I am not really on TikTok myself, but what has been happening recently is that a meme called Destination Dupes has taken off. Destination, obvious. Dupes is short for duplicate. So what these TikTok feeds are showing you is an alternative destination to a destination you might have wanted to go to, but found it too expensive, too crowded, that sort of thing. So I can tell you that this book was commissioned, planned, and was being written before Destination Dupes was ever a thing. So I'd like to think I'm right on time and I'm still with it. So it's the same thing with my book, Here Not There. We're really talking about counterintuitive and surprising destinations in the United States and around the world. So it's an interesting kind of thing. So, we were talking that, as you might recall, that, people have finding travel a little bit more difficult these days. It's too expensive. It's too crowded. And this was a way, of course, to suggest alternatives. So I want to encourage people to think out of the box with their travel choices.
Okay, so that's sort of the point of this book is similarly to Dupes, where you're giving people alternative places. They may be cheaper, they may be less crowded, they may be actually more interesting than the typical touristy spots.
Exactly, and I can give you a few examples, some quick ones. So, for example, you don't have to go to Greece to visit the Parthenon. I don't know if you know, but there's an exact replica of the Parthenon on the Acropolis that's sitting in a park in Nashville, Tennessee, and exact in every detail. And inside, as a matter of fact, there's a 42-foot tall golden statue of the Greek goddess Athena. Talking to the director of the monument, she told me that the sculptor had modeled Athena's smile after somebody we all know, Elvis Presley. Nashville, after all. So that's one way you can think of the dupe. Another way you can think of it is, so for example, take national parks. We all love those, but they've been becoming increasingly crowded. And with summer coming, two of the most popular national parks, Cape Cod National Seashore and Great Smoky Mountains National Park, are really crowded. They're some of the most popular, most heavily visited parks. But there are some other suggestions. So instead of Cape Cod, you might want to go to Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore, which is on the western side of Michigan, overlooking Lake Michigan, with miles of beaches, fabulous sand dunes for the kids to climb up, lovely rolling meadows where you can bike, and they even have their own sort of version of Provincetown, the city of Traverse City, which has become a big wine destination. So after playing around with that, you can go and get great food there. And 90 miles from the traffic jams in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Have you ever been to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park?
I don't think so. No.
Right. Well, it's a little disingenuous or disheartening, I guess, when you go and you're stuck in gridlock in the middle of this mountainous wilderness because it's so popular. So 95 miles away from the Smokies, but far less crowded, is the Cumberland Gap National Park that sort of bisects Tennessee and Kentucky. So you can go there and experience something similar. So those are all examples of what I'm talking about.
I've been to Yellowstone. That I remember. And it was very crowded.
That's right. Yeah. They're always quite crowded. And, that's sort of I am not suggesting that people do not go to Yellowstone. No, my goodness. That is, we, as Humphrey Bogart said in Casablanca, we'll always have Paris, and we'll have Hollywood and Yellowstone. And Paris itself, right? So, but these are places that you might want to go as well. So, case in point, I might talk about is, have you been to London?
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of people have been to London, Douglas, and I think that, people keep going back, and they go back because they like it, but they don't happen to realize, and maybe this is because Americans aren't used to trains, but you can hop on a train in London and be in Manchester, a fantastic, terrific, lively city, in just 2 hours. And it's a place that has the National Football Museum Hall of Fame, soccer to us. So kids love it. It's got a great musical heritage. Oasis, Joy Division, the Smiths, they were all from Manchester. So great in pop music, and it's got a very lively food scene, and the people are very friendly. London can sometimes seem a little bit too big for people, but you get to see and meet English people of all types when you go to Manchester.
Well, one of the problems that I have with going to big cities is the vast spread of prices in hotels. I mean, you can spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars a night, and it doesn't really make you want to stay there for too long. Where if you look carefully, though, you can find cheaper places. I mean, there's one place that I stay at in London when I go there that's £80 a night, and it's a perfectly nice place near the British Museum. It's small. You know, the difference between £80 a night and staying at the Hilton for $500 or $600 a night. Do you think that puts people off? I mean, do you think the prices of hotels is one example of something that puts people off from traveling altogether?
Yeah, I think so. I think that when you're trying to factor in and do a budget, the price of hotels can be very off-putting. Even the price of Airbnbs these days have gone up, especially their cleaning fees. So it gives people pause. But I think you do what I always tell people to do is if you're in an exciting, lively city, the purpose is to be in the thick of it, right? So get the cheapest, smallest room you can, because you're only going to be sleeping in it. So really, you don't need a suite. You can just go and then take the money you're saving and just spend it on great experiences in that town, like I'm sure you do in London. I don't know if you like theater, but it's a wonderful theater town.
Well, I definitely prefer to go there and not spend money on the hotel because there's so many other things to spend the money on.
And I do think so. For example, there's some smaller city, and we were talking about European trains. Use their speedy train network to your advantage. I mean, you might not want to stay in some of the larger cities like Frankfurt or Berlin if you can stay in these smaller cities like Aachen and Bonn and Lübeck, and you can just hop their high-speed trains and be in downtown Hamburg very quickly, or Frankfurt. See all of those sites, and then you return to a smaller city, which is more accessible. It's Bonn, for example, is a college town, and it's got a lively street scene and lots of good restaurants, but not as expensive as Frankfurt or Hamburg by any means.
Let's go back to the U.S. for a second. We've got just a couple minutes left, and
Okay.
I want to ask you, I know this is probably an impossible question, but do you have a favorite destination in the United States?
Well, I always ask when people ask me that question, in what context? Are you talking about a city,
let's say one that you've gone back to many times.
Gone back to many times. Well, that would certainly have to be New York City. I find it endlessly fascinating. I can tell you the cities that I found were most surprising. One of those is, and I'm not sure, where are you based?
I'm in Las Vegas.
You're in Las Vegas. So, for some reason, I always end up in and out of Las Vegas, but so does everybody else, thanks to your airport and so many people flying there. But one of the cities I found most surprising was Milwaukee. And it has the character and grit of perhaps what San Francisco and some of the Seattle used to have before, the tech gold washed all over them. But Yeah, Milwaukee is like San Francisco before it put on yoga pants. It's got this real sort of gritty, can-do atmosphere, and I just loved visiting it because it has the Harley-Davidson Museum, Hall of Fame there, yeah, which is great. It's got the Milwaukee Bucks, of course, which is their great team, and it has this remarkable friendliness. So you can go to Milwaukee and go and order a beer because, of course, it's Milwaukee beer, right? And if they find out that you're there on your own or by yourself, more often than not, somebody will invite you over to join their table. It's got a real kind of like Cheers bar sort of feeling about it. Very affable, friendly town. They like their food hearty and their portions big.
Well, that's actually surprising. Milwaukee was not one place that came up on the top of my list, but I will keep that in mind. Andrew, we do have to wind this down.
Yes.
We do have to wrap it up.
No, I just encourage everybody to be explorer.
Okay. All right. The book is called Here Not There. My guest is Andrew Nelson. The book is out. It's been released.
Yes, it's out and available in bookstores everywhere and all the usual suspects online.
Okay, and this is through National Geographic's. I believe their website is natgeobooks.com.
Mm-hmm. Yes, or you can find it also on Amazon.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was nice talking to you. Best of luck, your media tour and with the book.
Well, thank you. I will be traveling, that is for sure.